Welcome to GoReadling Bedtime Stories, presented by GoReadling.com. Personalized education and reading skills for kids. Find a comfortable spot, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and let our story carry you gently off to sleep. Tonight's story is called The Wizard of Oz. Far away in a quiet land called Kansas lived a little girl named Dorothy. Her world was painted in gentle shades of soft, dusty gray. The prairie stretched out like a calm, sleepy blanket, and the sun often shone with a hazy warmth that made the vast fields feel peaceful, if a little plain. Her Uncle Henry worked hard on their farm, and Aunt Em, with her kind, tired eyes, made sure Dorothy always felt loved, even when the wind whispered lonely tunes across the wide open spaces. Dorothy's best friend was a little black dog named Toto, who had sparkling eyes and a wagging tail, always ready for an adventure, no matter how small. One sunny morning, the air began to hum with a strange, low rumble, growing louder and louder like a giant, faraway drum. Toto barked nervously, his ears perked up as the sky swirled into a dark, twirling funnel, reaching down from the clouds with a mighty roar. It was a cyclone, a magnificent and frightening dance of wind, rushing towards their little farmhouse with incredible speed, promising a change to their quiet, gray existence. Aunt Em cried out, her voice a worried flutter. "Run, Dorothy! Run to the cellar!" But it was too late, for the immense force of the wind was upon them in a flash. The old farmhouse began to tremble and groan, shaking like a leaf caught in a strong gust. Then, with a creak and a groan, it lifted right off the ground, as if it were a toy kite caught in the strongest breeze imaginable. Dorothy, holding Toto tightly in her arms, felt a strange lurch, a feeling of floating, as the house spun gently upwards into the dizzying heart of the storm. The wind howled and whistled around them, a powerful song that sang of faraway places and unknown wonders. And though a little scared, Dorothy found herself snuggled in her bed, Toto tucked beside her, as their whole world became a tumbling, swirling journey through the sky. She closed her eyes, listening to the rhythmic rush of the wind, feeling safe inside her small wooden home, carried on an invisible current. For what felt like many, many hours, the farmhouse danced and soared through the air, carried by the invisible arms of the cyclone. Dorothy, tucked into her soft bed, felt a gentle swaying, like being rocked in a giant cradle, and she listened to the constant whoosh and sigh of the wind outside, a lullaby of the sky. Toto nestled close, occasionally let out a soft whine, but mostly he just trembled slightly against her, trusting his little girl. There were no bumps or jostles, just a smooth, continuous glide, as if the house itself had learned to fly. Eventually, the powerful rushing sound of the wind began to soften, fading into a gentle whisper, and the spinning motion slowed, becoming a soft, slow descent. Dorothy opened her eyes, blinking in the new light, and saw that the storm clouds had parted, revealing a bright, clear sky, painted with hues she had never seen in Kansas. With a final, delicate bump, the house settled gently to the ground, no longer flying, but now still and quiet. Slowly, carefully, Dorothy got out of bed, Toto trotting right beside her, his tail giving a tentative little wag. She walked to the door and pushed it open, her heart beating with a soft, excited thump-thump. What she saw made her gasp with wonder, for it was nothing like the gray, dusty fields of Kansas. Everywhere she looked, the world was bursting with vibrant, sparkling colors. The grass was a shimmering emerald green, dotted with flowers of brilliant blue, sunny yellow, and rosy red, each petal seeming to glow. Trees, laden with delicious-looking fruits, whispered softly in a gentle breeze, their leaves rustling like silk. And the air? Oh, the air smelled sweet and fresh, like 1,000 blooming gardens after a soft spring rain. "Oh, Toto," she breathed, her eyes wide. "We're not in Kansas anymore." And then, from behind the colorful trees and mushroom-shaped houses, tiny, friendly faces began to peek out, their eyes full of curiosity. Soon, a crowd of little people, no taller than Dorothy's shoulder, gathered around, their faces full of smiles and wonder. They wore funny pointed hats and bright blue clothes, and their movements were quick and light, like happy little birds. These were the Munchkins, and they chattered excitedly in soft, musical voices, pointing at Dorothy and her house. Then an older woman approached, her face kind and wise, dressed in a sparkling white gown that shimmered like moonlight on snow. This was the Good Witch of the North, and she bowed deeply to Dorothy, her voice as gentle as a soft breeze. "Welcome, dear child, to the land of the Munchkins," she said, her eyes twinkling. "We are so grateful to you, for you have freed us from a terrible power." Dorothy looked confused. "But what have I done?" she asked, her voice small. The Good Witch pointed to the corner of the house, and there, beneath the strong timber, Dorothy saw 2 small shiny feet sticking out, wearing silver shoes. "You have killed the Wicked Witch of the East," the Good Witch explained, "and set all the Munchkins free from her cruel magic." Dorothy felt a little shiver, not of fear, but of surprise, as she looked at the silver shoes. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone, and it felt very strange to be thanked for something she hadn't known she'd done. The Munchkins cheered and clapped, their happy sounds filling the air, a joyful melody. The Good Witch of the North then explained that the Wicked Witch of the East had been a very cruel sorceress, and now her magic was broken. The Munchkins were free to sing and dance and laugh as much as they pleased. But Dorothy's thoughts were already drifting back to her gray home. "Oh, but I want to go home to Kansas," she said, a little tear welling in her eye. "Can you tell me how to get back?" The Good Witch thought for a moment, stroking her chin. "The only one who might know is the Great Wizard of Oz," she replied. "He lives in the Emerald City, and you must follow the yellow brick road to find him." The Good Witch gently took the shiny silver shoes from beneath the house and placed them carefully on Dorothy's feet. They fit perfectly, sparkling in the sunlight, and felt as light as feathers. "These were the Wicked Witch of the East's magical shoes," she explained, "and they hold great power, though I do not know what it is. Guard them well." With a final, warm smile and a kiss on Dorothy's forehead, the Good Witch of the North faded away, leaving Dorothy and Toto alone on the bright, unfamiliar path. Dorothy took a deep breath, clutching Toto close, and looked at the beautiful, winding yellow brick road that stretched out before her, gleaming like a ribbon of pure sunshine. It looked long, but it also looked like an adventure. With a brave little nod, she took her first step, her silver shoes clicking softly on the golden bricks, and began her journey towards the magnificent Emerald City, hoping the Great Wizard would know the way back to her beloved Kansas. The yellow brick road wound through fields of soft green grass, where colorful birds sang sweet chirping songs from the branches of tall, leafy trees. The air was filled with the gentle hum of happy insects and the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers. Dorothy walked with a steady pace, Toto trotting beside her, his little tail wagging with curiosity. The sun felt warm on her face, and the journey felt more like a pleasant stroll than a grand quest, though her heart still held a quiet longing for home. Soon she came to a large field of corn, taller than she was, and standing in the middle of it was a scarecrow, placed there to frighten away pesky birds. He was made of old blue clothes stuffed with straw, with a painted smile on his face. But what truly surprised Dorothy was when the scarecrow blinked his eyes at her. "Good day," he said, his voice a little creaky but clear. "Are you going to the Emerald City?" Dorothy gasped, surprised that a scarecrow could talk. "Why, yes, I am," she replied, her voice full of wonder. "I'm going to ask the Great Wizard of Oz to send me back home to Kansas." The scarecrow sighed, a soft rustling sound from his straw-filled body. "Oh, I wish I could go with you," he said, his painted smile looking a little sad. "You see, I have no brain, just straw, and I wish the wizard would give me one. I want to think and be clever, to understand all the wonderful things in the world." Dorothy's kind heart felt a pang of sympathy for the lonely scarecrow. "Of course you can come with us," she exclaimed, her face brightening. "The more the merrier on a long journey, and perhaps the wizard can help us both." The scarecrow's button eyes seemed to light up with joy. He carefully stepped down from his pole, a little wobbly at first, and then began to walk, a new spring in his straw-filled step, eager for the adventure and the promise of a brain. So Dorothy, Toto, and the Scarecrow continued along the yellow brick road. The Scarecrow was a funny companion, often stumbling and tripping, and sometimes his straw would poke out in odd places, but he was always cheerful and full of questions about the world. He talked about how much he longed to think and learn, and Dorothy told him stories about Kansas, about the little schoolhouse and the lessons she learned there. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long, dancing shadows, and the air grew warmer, filled with the gentle chirping of crickets and the distant buzz of busy bees. They walked past shimmering fields of poppies, their petals a vibrant, dreamy red, and beside winding streams that gurgled with cool, clear water. The journey felt a little less lonely now, with a friend by her side, and the thought of the Emerald City, with its promise of a wish granted, shimmered brightly in her mind, a beacon of hope at the end of their golden path. They talked and laughed, and the miles seemed to melt away. As the afternoon sun began to dip low, painting the sky with soft oranges and purples, they heard a faint, rhythmic clanking sound coming from a dense forest beside the road. Clank, clank, clank it went, like someone tapping metal with a hammer. Curious, Dorothy and the Scarecrow pushed through the leafy branches, Toto sniffing excitedly at their heels, and soon they came upon a most unusual sight. Standing perfectly still amongst the trees was a figure made entirely of shining tin, holding an axe. He was completely rusted, unable to move, his eyes staring blankly. "Oh dear," whispered Dorothy, her heart feeling a little sad for this lonely tin man. "He seems to be stuck." The Scarecrow, with his new curiosity, carefully approached the figure. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice a gentle rustle of straw. The Tin Woodman, with a great creaking effort, managed to open his mouth. I am rusted," he said, his voice a faint, grating whisper. "I need oil." Dorothy quickly remembered the oil can she had packed in her basket for just such an emergency, a small, thoughtful provision Aunt Em had insisted upon. With gentle hands, she carefully oiled the Tin Woodman's joints, one by one, listening to the satisfying creak and then the smooth click as each part began to move freely again. First his jaw, then his arms, then his legs, until finally he could move his whole body. He stretched, a series of soft metallic sighs, and then bowed politely. "Thank you, kind girl," he said, his voice now much clearer, like gentle bells. "I have been stuck here for a very long time." He explained that he had once been a real man, but a wicked spell had turned him into tin, and he had accidentally rusted himself still while chopping wood. "Now that I can move, I wish for one thing above all else," he continued, his tin eyes looking wistful. "I wish for a heart. The Wizard of Oz, I hear, can give hearts to those who truly desire them." Dorothy, with her kind and generous spirit, immediately invited the Tin Woodman to join their little group. "Oh, please come with us," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "We are going to the Emerald City to see the Great Wizard, and he might be able to grant your wish too." The Tin Woodman's metal face seemed to brighten, and he smiled a gleaming, happy smile. "That would be wonderful," he exclaimed, his movements now fluid and graceful. "To have a warm, beating heart, to feel love and kindness, that is my greatest longing." So, with a happy clanking and a gentle rustle, the three friends and Toto continued their journey down the yellow brick road. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples, and the air grew cooler, carrying the sweet scent of evening flowers. Dorothy felt a growing comfort, surrounded by her new companions, each with their own special wish, all walking together towards the shimmering promise of the Emerald City, a beacon of hope in the magical land of Oz. The next morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky with soft pinks and golds, the three friends and Toto continued their journey. The air was fresh and cool, filled with the gentle sounds of awakening birds and the rustling of leaves. They walked through a thick, whispering forest, where tall, ancient trees with mossy trunks cast long, dancing shadows on the yellow brick road. Suddenly, from deep within the forest, they heard a low, rumbling growl, a sound that seemed to shake the very leaves on the trees. Toto yelped and hid behind Dorothy's legs, and even the brave Tin Woodman paused, his tin heart, or where it should be, giving a little shiver. A truly enormous lion, with a magnificent golden mane and eyes the color of warm honey, sprang out from the trees, landing right in front of them with a mighty roar. He looked terribly fierce, his sharp claws glinting, and his powerful tail swishing back and forth like a giant rope. Dorothy, though a little startled, bravely stepped forward, protecting Toto. "Oh, you big, silly lion," she scolded, her voice surprisingly steady. "You shouldn't roar at little dogs and scare good friends." The lion, to everyone's surprise, blinked his big golden eyes and actually seemed to shrink a little, his fierce roar fading into a soft whimper. He looked down at his paws, then up at Dorothy, his expression surprisingly timid. "Oh dear," he mumbled, his voice a deep, shaky rumble. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare anyone. I'm just a cowardly lion, you see. I pretend to be brave, but inside I'm always terribly afraid of everything." He sighed, a great shaky breath. "I wish I had courage, real courage, so I wouldn't be so scared all the time. I've heard the great Wizard of Oz can give courage to those who ask." Dorothy's kind heart immediately melted for the poor frightened lion. "Why, of course you can come with us," she exclaimed, her voice full of warmth and understanding. "We are all going to the Emerald City to ask the wizard for something special, and I am sure he can give you courage too." The cowardly lion's big golden eyes lit up with a spark of hope, and he gave a soft, happy sigh, his tail wagging a little. "Oh, thank you, he rumbled, his voice still a little shaky, but filled with gratitude. To be brave, to feel truly courageous, that would be the most wonderful thing in the world. So, with a happy new friend, the four companions, Dorothy, Toto, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, continued their journey along the winding yellow brick road. The sun shone brightly, the birds sang, and the air hummed with the promise of adventure, each step bringing them closer to the shimmering Emerald City and the mysterious Wizard of Oz. Their journey together was filled with shared stories and quiet moments, each friend supporting the other. The Scarecrow often tumbled, the Tin Woodman sometimes creaked, and the Cowardly Lion still jumped at shadows, but they faced every challenge as a team. They crossed sparkling streams on stepping stones, giggled at chattering squirrels, and marveled at forests filled with glowing mushrooms. The days rolled by like gentle clouds, and the landscape gradually began to change, growing even more vibrant and magical. The trees became taller and more magnificent, their leaves shimmering with a special green glow, and the air itself seemed to hum with a gentle, wondrous energy. Finally, after many days of walking, they saw it in the distance, a magnificent city, sparkling and gleaming with every shade of green imaginable.
It was the Emerald City, its towers reaching proudly towards the sky, reflecting the sunlight like 1,000 precious jewels. A gasp of awe escaped Dorothy's lips, and her heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and hope.
As they drew closer to the Emerald City, the air grew cooler and fresher, and the scent of unknown, sweet-smelling flowers drifted on the breeze. The yellow brick road led them right up to a towering gate, studded with glittering emeralds. A kindly man, dressed all in green, with kind, wise eyes, stood guard. He smiled warmly as they approached. "Welcome to the Emerald City," he said, his voice soft and friendly. "But to enter, you must wear these special green glasses so that the brilliance of the city does not blind your eyes." He handed each of them a pair of emerald-tinted spectacles with a little lock and key so they couldn't be removed. Once the glasses were on, the city seemed to burst into an even more magnificent display of green. Every building, every street, every person they saw was a different shade of emerald, jade, or shimmering lime, creating a breathtaking panorama of verdant beauty. It was truly a sight to behold, a magical place built of green light and wonder. The guard led them through the bustling green streets, where everyone they saw was dressed in soft green clothes and seemed happy and cheerful. The sounds of the city were gentle. Soft music played from unseen instruments, and friendly chatter filled the air. Dorothy felt a sense of awe and excitement as they made their way towards the very center of the city, where the great Wizard of Oz resided in his magnificent palace. The palace itself was a wonder, built of polished emeralds that glowed with an inner light, its tall spires reaching towards the sky like giant sparkling trees. They were taken to a grand waiting room, its walls shimmering with green silk, and after a short while, a small green man with a kind smile led them into a vast circular chamber. In the center of the room, on a throne of shimmering emeralds, sat a gigantic floating head with no body, its eyes sparkling with a powerful, knowing light. This was the great Wizard of Oz, and his voice, when he spoke, was a deep, booming rumble that filled the entire room, making Dorothy's heart thump with both fear and wonder. Each friend, one by one, bravely stepped forward to present their wishes to the magnificent disembodied head. The Scarecrow, his straw rustling nervously, explained his longing for a brain, to be wise and clever. The Tin Woodman, his tin body gleaming, spoke of his deep desire for a warm, beating heart, to feel kindness and love. The Cowardly Lion, trembling slightly, confessed his wish for true courage, to banish his fears. And then it was Dorothy's turn. Her voice, though a little shaky, was clear as she explained her greatest wish, to go home to Kansas, to her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, to the familiar gray prairie. The wizard listened patiently, his glowing eyes fixed on each of them. Then, with a mighty boom that echoed through the emerald chamber, he declared, "I will grant your wishes, but first you must do something for me. You must destroy the Wicked Witch of the West." A collective gasp filled the room, for the Wicked Witch of the West was known throughout Oz as the cruelest and most fearsome witch of all. A shiver of fear ran through Dorothy, for she had heard stories of the Wicked Witch of the West's terrible power, and the thought of facing such a wicked creature made her feel very small. But the wizard's voice was firm, and he told them that only by defeating the witch could their wishes be granted. So, with heavy hearts but determined spirits, the four friends left the shimmering Emerald City, their green glasses now removed, and began their journey towards the gloomy, dusty land of the Winkies, where the Wicked Witch of the West lived in her dark, forbidding castle. The landscape slowly changed from lush green to dry, rocky plains, and the air grew colder, filled with a sense of unease. The sun seemed less friendly here, and the silence was often broken by the ominous caw of a crow or the rustle of unseen creatures. They walked with caution, their eyes wide, knowing that danger lurked in the shadows, but their hope for their wishes kept them moving forward, one brave step after another.
The Wicked Witch of the West, with her one eye that could see for miles and her wicked, cackling laugh, soon spotted the little group approaching her domain. She was a truly frightful sight, old and wrinkled, with a green face and a pointed hat, and her heart was as cold as ice. She tried many tricks to stop them, sending a pack of wolves, then a flock of wild crows, but the Scarecrow's cleverness and the Tin Woodman's strong axe easily defeated them. Finally, in a fit of rage, she used her most powerful magic, her winged monkeys. With a screech and a flurry of feathers, the monkeys swooped down from the sky, snatching the Scarecrow apart and throwing the Tin Woodman from a great height, bending his tin body. They captured the Cowardly Lion with strong ropes, and then, with a mischievous grin, they flew Dorothy and Toto straight to the witch's gloomy castle, leaving the others scattered and broken on the dusty plains. Dorothy felt a surge of despair, but she held Toto tightly, her small heart still bravely beating.
Inside the witch's dark, drafty castle, Dorothy was made to work, scrubbing floors and polishing pots, while the Wicked Witch tried constantly to get her magical silver shoes. But the shoes were powerful, and the witch could never touch them. One day, as Dorothy was cleaning, the witch saw the shining silver shoes and tried to trip Dorothy, hoping they would fall off. Dorothy, angered by the witch's cruelty, grabbed a bucket of water that was standing nearby, meant for cleaning, and without thinking, she threw it at the Wicked Witch of the West. To her utter amazement and the witch's horrified surprise, the water seemed to melt the witch. With a loud hiss and a gurgle, the Wicked Witch of the West shriveled and dissolved into a puddle of goo, leaving behind only her pointed hat and her tattered broom. Dorothy gasped, not quite believing what had just happened, but the castle suddenly felt lighter, the air sweeter, and the terrifying presence of the witch was gone, forever. With the Wicked Witch of the West melted away, the spell over the Winkies, the people of that land, was broken, and they were overjoyed. They helped Dorothy find her friends, carefully putting the Scarecrow back together with fresh straw, gently repairing the Tin Woodman's dented body, and freeing the Cowardly Lion from his ropes. With renewed hope and lighter hearts, the four friends and Toto began their journey back to the Emerald City, eager to tell the wizard that their task was done and to finally claim their wishes. The journey felt much brighter this time. The sun seemed to shine with more warmth, and the air carried a sweet song of triumph. When they arrived at the grand gates, the guard, still dressed in green, welcomed them with a warm smile, and they were once again led through the shimmering streets to the magnificent Emerald Palace, their hearts beating with anticipation, ready to receive their long-awaited rewards from the mysterious ruler of Oz. Once inside the palace, they waited patiently, and when the Green Man finally led them into the wizard's chamber, they were surprised to find not the giant floating head, but a kindly old man with a bald head and a wrinkled face, standing behind a curtain. "Who are you?" Dorothy asked, her voice filled with confusion. The old man sighed, a little sadly. "I am the Wizard of Oz," he confessed, his voice no longer booming, but soft and ordinary. "I am just a common man from Omaha, who arrived in Oz many years ago in a hot air balloon. I created the illusion of the Great Wizard to make myself seem powerful and to keep peace in this land." Dorothy and her friends were very surprised, but not angry. They understood that he had tried his best, and deep down, they still believed he could help them, even if he wasn't a real wizard. His kind eyes held a gentle wisdom, and he smiled a reassuring smile. Though he wasn't a powerful magician, the kind old man, the Wizard of Oz, was very clever and wise. He listened patiently as Dorothy and her friends reminded him of their wishes. For the Scarecrow, he carefully opened the straw head and placed a mixture of pins and needles inside, declaring, "Now you have a brand new brain, full of sharp thoughts and clever ideas." The Scarecrow instantly felt smarter, his mind buzzing with understanding. For the Tin Woodman, the wizard cut a small silken heart, filled with soft sawdust, and carefully placed it inside his tin chest, saying, "Now you have a loving heart, full of tenderness and kindness." The Tin Woodman felt a warm glow spread through him, feeling love for the first time.
And for the Cowardly Lion, the wizard gave him a small bottle of green liquid, saying, "Drink this, and you will feel true courage flow through your veins." The lion drank it and immediately felt brave and strong, his fears melting away like morning mist. The wizard, though an ordinary man, had helped them realize the wonderful qualities they already possessed within themselves.
The Scarecrow beamed, his straw-filled head feeling full of grand ideas. The Tin Woodman gently patted his chest, feeling the soft throb of his new heart, overflowing with warm, kind feelings. And the Cowardly Lion stood tall, his roar now strong and confident, no longer afraid of anything. They thanked the wizard profusely, their faces shining with joy. But Dorothy's heart still held its quiet ache for home. "You have helped my friends so wonderfully," she said, her voice soft and hopeful. "But what about me? How can I get back to Kansas?" The wizard, looking a little sad, confessed that he had no magic to send her across such a vast distance. He suggested he could try to take her in his hot air balloon, but a sudden gust of wind swept the balloon away before Dorothy could climb aboard, leaving her once again feeling lost and far from home. A tear trickled down her cheek, but her friends gathered around her, offering comfort and support, reminding her that they would help her find a way. Just as Dorothy's hope began to fade, a familiar, gentle voice spoke from behind her. She turned to see the Good Witch of the North, who had appeared as softly as a whisper, her white gown shimmering like moonlight. "My dear child," the Good Witch said, her eyes twinkling with kindness, "you have always had the power to return home. The silver shoes you wear can take you anywhere you wish to go." Dorothy gasped, looking down at her shining silver shoes, which had been with her all along. "But how?" she asked, her voice full of wonder and a renewed surge of hope. "You only need to click the heels together 3 times, the Good Witch explained, her smile warm and reassuring, "and wish for where you want to go, and they will carry you there." Dorothy's heart soared with happiness and gratitude, realizing that the magic she needed had been with her all this time, a hidden secret waiting to be discovered, a gentle reminder that sometimes the answers we seek are closer than we think. Dorothy hugged her friends tightly, one last warm embrace. She hugged the wise Scarecrow, the kind Tin Woodman, and the brave Cowardly Lion, promising to always remember them and their wonderful adventures together. A soft breeze whispered through the Emerald City, carrying the sweet scent of green flowers, as Dorothy, with Toto tucked safely in her arms, stood on the yellow brick road, her silver shoes gleaming. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and thought of her beloved Kansas, of Aunt Em's warm hug and Uncle Henry's gentle smile, of the dusty, familiar prairie. She clicked the heels of her silver shoes together, once, twice, 3 times, and wished with all her heart, "Take me home to Aunt Em." A soft, swooshing sound filled the air, and a feeling like floating on a gentle cloud enveloped her, carrying her swiftly and silently through the vast dark sky, past the winking stars and the sleepy moon, on a magical journey back to where she truly belonged. The journey home was swift and peaceful, a quiet glide through the starry night. Dorothy felt the soft, rhythmic hum of the magic carrying her, a gentle rocking that lulled her into a sweet, peaceful slumber. Toto nestled warmly against her. The sky above was a deep, velvet blue, sprinkled with countless tiny, sparkling stars that seemed to wink and shimmer like diamonds, and a soft crescent moon cast a silvery glow over the sleeping world. She felt no fear, only a deep sense of calm and anticipation, knowing that with every gentle swirl, she was getting closer and closer to her own bed, her own home. The magical wind sang a soft lullaby tune, a whisper of distant memories and dreams, as the silver shoes quietly worked their wonder, carrying her over mountain peaks that looked like shadowy giants, and across wide, silent oceans,
until at last the familiar scent of prairie grass, warm and earthy, began to drift into her dreams, a sweet promise of waking up exactly where she wished to be. And then, with a soft, almost imperceptible bump, Dorothy found herself lying gently on the familiar, grassy ground, the warm Kansas sun already peeking over the horizon, painting the sky with soft, rosy colors. Her little farmhouse stood before her, sturdy and gray, and in the distance she could see Uncle Henry rushing towards her, his face filled with worry, and Aunt Em, her arms outstretched for a loving hug. Toto barked with delight, wiggling his whole body with happiness, and Dorothy knew, with a certainty that filled her heart with warmth, that she was finally home. The grand adventure was over, but the memories of her kind friends and the magical land of Oz would always sparkle brightly in her heart, a wonderful secret to keep. Now, as you drift off to sleep, let your own dreams take you on gentle adventures, just like Dorothy's. Close your eyes, listen to the soft night, and know that you are safe and loved. Sweet dreams, little one, and good night.
And that is the end of our story. Thank you for listening to GoReadling Bedtime Stories. Visit GoReadling.com for more stories, reading adventures, and fun learning for kids. Sweet dreams, little one. Good night.